The charity gala invitation arrived in a plain envelope. No return address, just Marcus's familiar handwriting. Please, one night, let them see you. Amara Sterling stared at the cream cardstock, her hands trembling. 3 years. 3 years of being Marcus Whitmore's secret. 3 years of loving a man who introduced her as his consultant when anyone accidentally discovered them. 3 years of watching him build a public life that had no room for her or their children. She walked to the nursery where Elijah and Zara slept, their brown skin glowing in the nightlight's soft beam. They had Marcus's nose, his stubborn chin. How much longer could she explain why Daddy only visited their hidden brownstone in Brooklyn after dark? The gala was tomorrow. Manhattan's elite would gather at the Metropolitan Museum to celebrate Marcus's $50 million donation to environmental causes. Cameras would flash, society pages would gush, and Marcus expected her to slip in through the service entrance, smile from the shadows, then disappear like she always did. Amara picked up her phone, fingers hovering over Marcus's contact, but instead, she opened her email and typed a message to Diane Chen, Marcus's business partner and the only person in his world who knew the truth. I'm done being invisible. Tomorrow I'm walking through the front door with Elijah and Zara. Either Marcus introduces us properly or I leave him forever. He has until 7 p.m. to decide. She hit send before courage could fail her. What Marcus didn't know was that Amara had been offered a prestigious position at Stanford, full professorship, research lab, everything she'd dreamed of. The acceptance letter sat on her desk, deadline looming. She'd built this life around loving him, around believing he'd eventually find the courage to choose them. Tomorrow would reveal whether she'd been a fool. Amara sank onto the velvet sofa in her living room, the room Marcus had furnished with quiet luxury. Everything in this brownstone whispered of his generosity and his guilt. The custom bookshelves filled with first editions, the state-of-the-art kitchen she'd mentioned loving once in passing, the nursery decorated like something from a fairy tale, all of it purchased with money that said what his public voice never could. I love you, but I'm too afraid to show it. She remembered the day they met 4 years ago at the Whitmore Green Technologies headquarters. She'd been a doctoral candidate then, 24 and brilliant, presenting her revolutionary research on carbon capture systems to potential investors. Marcus had sat in the back of the conference room, 31 years old and already a legend in sustainable technology. Forbes called him the Green Billionaire. Wall Street called him a genius. He'd asked 3 questions during her presentation. Each one revealed he'd actually read her 100-page research proposal. Each one made her heart beat faster. After the meeting, he'd approached her. Your work could change everything, Dr. Sterling. Not a doctor yet, she'd corrected, smiling. 2 more months until I defend my dissertation. Then I'll wait 2 months to offer you a position. His eyes had held something more than professional interest. But I'd like to take you to dinner tonight, to discuss your research, of course. That dinner had lasted 4 hours. They'd talked about climate science and childhood dreams and the weight of expectations. He'd told her about building his company from nothing, about proving himself to a father who never believed in him. She'd shared her own story. Growing up in Atlanta's West End, her mother cleaning houses to pay for her private school education, her father working double shifts at the post office to fund her college dreams. You're extraordinary, Marcus had said as he walked her to her subway stop. His hand had brushed hers, sending electricity up her arm. And I want to see you again, not to discuss research. She'd said yes. For 6 months they'd been inseparable. He'd come to her dissertation defense sitting in the front row, beaming with pride when she earned her doctorate. She'd attended his product launches, understanding the technology in ways that made his eyes light up when they discussed it later. They'd fallen in love slowly, then all at once. Then his father died. James Whitmore's heart attack came sudden and severe. Marcus had flown to the family estate in Connecticut, and Amara hadn't heard from him for 3 days. When he finally called, his voice had sounded hollow. I need to see you. Can you come to the estate? She'd driven up that evening, nervous about meeting his family, but eager to support him through his grief. But Marcus had met her at the gate. I can't bring you inside, he'd said, and something in his eyes had already been retreating. My mother, the funeral, it's complicated. I understand, she'd said, though she hadn't. Not really. They'd sat in his car for 2 hours while he told her about the deathbed conversation with his father, the warnings about protecting the family legacy, the reminders that certain choices have consequences, the implication, barely veiled, that his relationship with a black woman would bring shame to the Whitmore name. He was from a different generation, Marcus had said, his voice breaking. Prejudiced, narrow-minded. I know that. But he was also my father, and He'd stopped, shaking his head. I just need some time to figure this out. Time had turned into weeks, weeks into months. Their relationship had shifted, becoming something conducted in shadows. He'd moved her into the Brooklyn brownstone, far from Manhattan's watchful eyes. He'd stopped bringing her to company events. When colleagues asked about his personal life, he deflected. And then she'd gotten pregnant. Amara closed her eyes, remembering that moment. The positive test. The joy that had flooded through her, then the immediate fear. How would she tell him? How would he react when the thing he'd been trying to hide became impossible to conceal? She'd rehearsed the conversation 100 times, but when Marcus arrived for one of his evening visits, the words had simply tumbled out. I'm pregnant. The color had drained from his face. For a long moment he'd just stared at her. Then he'd pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. I love you, he'd whispered. God, Amara, I love you so much. But he hadn't said he was ready to tell the world. The pregnancy had been challenging. Twins, the doctors discovered at her 12-week ultrasound. Marcus had been attentive, caring, present for every appointment. He'd held her hand during the delivery, tears streaming down his face when Elijah emerged first, then Zara 2 minutes later. They're perfect, he'd breathed, cradling his daughter with shaking hands. You're perfect. Our family is perfect. But perfect families didn't hide. Perfect families didn't require their father to arrive after dark and leave before dawn. Perfect families didn't celebrate first birthdays with only a mother present, because Daddy had a board meeting he couldn't miss. Amara's phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Please call me. We need to talk about tomorrow. She ignored it. For 3 years, she'd answered every call, accommodated every excuse, swallowed every humiliation. Tomorrow, it was his turn to find courage. A soft sound from the nursery made her stand. Elijah was awake, his small voice calling out. She went to him, lifting her son into her arms. Mama, when is Daddy coming? The question pierced her heart. Not tonight, sweetheart. But I made him a picture. Elijah pointed to the construction paper taped to the wall, a child's drawing of 4 stick figures holding hands. That's me and Zara and you and Daddy. We're a family. Amara's eyes burned with unshed tears. Yes, baby, we're a family. Then why doesn't Daddy live here with us? She'd explained it a dozen different ways, all of them inadequate. Daddy works very hard. Daddy has a big house he has to take care of. Daddy loves you so much, but sometimes grown-ups have complicated lives, all of them lies wrapped in partial truths. Things are going to change, she told Elijah, smoothing his curls. Tomorrow we're going to see Daddy at a big party, and everyone is going to know that we belong together. Elijah's eyes widened. Really? Everyone will know Daddy is our daddy? Everyone will know. And then he'll live here with us? Amara's throat tightened. I hope so, sweetheart. I really hope so. She stayed with Elijah until he drifted back to sleep, then returned to the living room. Her laptop sat on the coffee table, the Stanford email still open. Professor Amanda Okoye, the department chair, had written, Amara, your work on carbon sequestration systems is groundbreaking. We want you here. Full professorship, your own lab, a team of graduate students. This is the position you've always deserved. I need your answer by Monday. Monday was 3 days away. Amara pulled up her calendar. Tomorrow was Friday, the gala. Saturday and Sunday, to see if Marcus would actually change. Monday to decide whether to build a life that didn't revolve around waiting for a man to choose her. Her phone rang. Marcus again. This time, she answered. Amara, thank God. I've been trying to reach you all evening. His voice, that cultured British accent softened by years in America, still affected her. She hated that it did. I got your message, she said evenly. Then you understand why I need you to reconsider. Tomorrow's important. There will be cameras, reporters, everyone who matters in Manhattan society. If you walk in with the children, if you force this confrontation. Force? The word came out sharp. Marcus, I'm not forcing anything. I'm simply refusing to hide anymore. You're not hiding. We're being private. There's a difference. No, there isn't. Not when our 3-year-old children don't understand why their father won't acknowledge them in public. Silence on the other end. Then, that's not fair. None of this is fair. Amara stood, pacing. Do you know what Elijah asked me tonight? He asked when you're going to live with us. How do I answer that, Marcus? How do I explain to our children that their father is ashamed of them? I'm not ashamed of them. His voice cracked with emotion. I'm not ashamed of any of you. I love you. I love our children more than anything in this world. Then prove it. Tomorrow night, 7 p.m. I'll be walking through the front entrance of the Met with Elijah and Zara. If you love us, you'll stand beside us. You'll introduce us to your world. You'll stop pretending we don't exist. Amara. And if you can't do that, if you're still too afraid or ashamed or whatever it is that keeps you from claiming your own family, then we're done. I've accepted a position at Stanford. The twins and I will move to California, and you can visit them whenever you want. But I won't be your secret anymore. The words hung between them, irrevocable. Stanford. Marcus's voice was barely a whisper. You're leaving? I'm choosing myself. I'm choosing our children. I'm choosing a life where we don't have to hide who we are or who we love. Amara's hand tightened on the phone. The question is whether you're brave enough to make the same choice. I need time to... You've had 3 years, Marcus. You don't need more time. You need courage. Tomorrow at 7. That's all I have to say. She ended the call before he could respond, before her resolve could weaken. The apartment felt too quiet. Amara walked to her bedroom, opened the closet, and pulled out the dress she'd bought for tomorrow. Emerald silk that hugged her curves, with a neckline that was elegant but daring. She'd chosen it specifically because it was the opposite of invisible. Tomorrow Manhattan's elite would see her. They would see her children. They would see what Marcus had been hiding. And Marcus would have to decide what kind of man he wanted to be. Across the city, in his penthouse overlooking Central Park, Marcus Whitmore stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows and tried to remember how to breathe. She was leaving, taking the children, moving across the country. The thought made his chest constrict with panic. Life, without Amara's brilliant mind challenging him, without Elijah's infectious laugh, without Zara's quiet observations that showed she saw everything, understood everything. Life without his family, because that's what they were, even if he'd been too cowardly to say it publicly. His family, the people who made every achievement meaningful, the ones he thought about during tedious board meetings, the reason he worked so hard to build something lasting. His phone buzzed, a text from Diane. She told me about the ultimatum. It's about damn time. Either step up or let her go. She deserves better than what you've given her. Even his business partner thought he was a coward. Marcus pulled up the photos on his private phone, the one only Amara knew about. Hundreds of images. Amara pregnant, glowing with life. The twins at 6 months, laughing at something off camera. Their second birthday party, just the 4 of them in the brownstone. Last week, Zara showing him her latest painting. A secret gallery of the life he cherished, but refused to share. He thought about his father's deathbed warnings. You're the face of this family now, Marcus. Every choice you make reflects on us. Your mother has given her entire life to maintaining our position in society. Don't throw that away for some girl who... He hadn't finished the sentence, but the implication had been clear. Some girl who wasn't white. Some girl who wasn't from their world. Some girl who would bring shame to the Whitmore name. For 3 years, Marcus had let those words dictate his choices. He'd told himself he was protecting Amara and the children from his mother's judgment, from society's whispers. But the truth was simpler and uglier. He'd been protecting himself. From confrontation, from having to choose between the approval he'd always sought and the love he'd finally found. He'd been a coward. The realization hit him like a physical blow. All this time he'd thought he was being careful, strategic. But he'd really just been afraid. Afraid of his mother's disappointment, afraid of his father's ghost, afraid of proving that he wasn't strong enough to stand against the prejudices that had shaped his upbringing. And in his fear, he'd hurt the people who mattered most. Marcus looked at the photo on his screen. Amara holding both twins, all three of them looking at the camera with identical expressions of joy. His family. The best thing that had ever happened to him. Tomorrow at 7 p.m. she would walk through those doors, with or without him. He knew what he had to do. The only question was whether he had the courage to actually do it. The next morning, Amara took the twins to their favorite breakfast spot in Brooklyn. Elijah ordered chocolate chip pancakes. Zara asked for French toast, then spent 20 minutes arranging the berries on top into patterns. "Mama, are we really going to see Daddy tonight?" Elijah asked, his mouth full of pancake. "Yes, sweetheart. We're going to a very fancy party." "Will there be other kids?" "Probably not. This is a grown-up party, but you two will be the most special people there." Zara looked up from her berry arrangement. "Why don't we go to Daddy's house?" The question, asked with such innocence, made Amara's heart ache. How could she explain that they'd never been to Marcus's penthouse because he was afraid someone would see them there? "Daddy's house is very far away," she said carefully. "But Daddy has a car," Zara countered with 3-year-old logic. "Cars go far. You're absolutely right." Amara reached over to brush a curl from Zara's forehead. "And maybe after tonight, things will be different. Maybe we'll get to see Daddy's house." "And my room there." Elijah perked up. "Daddy said he has a room for me with dinosaurs." Amara's chest tightened. She hadn't known Marcus told the children about rooms at his place, more promises made in private, while his public life continued without them. After breakfast, they stopped by Pastor Robinson's church. The older man had been Amara's spiritual anchor through graduate school and beyond. When she'd gotten pregnant, he'd counseled her without judgment. When she'd struggled with Marcus's unwillingness to go public, he'd listened and prayed and asked the hard questions. "Miss Amara," Pastor Robinson emerged from his office, his weathered face creasing into a smile. "And these must be my favorite twins." Elijah and Zara ran to him, chattering about the party they were attending tonight. While they played with the toys kept in the church office, Pastor Robinson pulled Amara aside. "You look determined," he observed. "Today's the day?" "Today's the day." Amara took a shaky breath. "I gave him an ultimatum. Acknowledge us publicly or lose us. And if he chooses his comfort over his family, then I take the Stanford position. Start fresh where nobody knows us, where the twins won't have to wonder why their father doesn't claim them." Pastor Robinson was quiet for a moment. "You know I love you like a daughter, and I want you to have everything you deserve. But I need to ask, have you prayed about this? Really prayed, not just asked God to make Marcus do what you want?" Amara sighed. "I've prayed. I've waited. I've been patient for 3 years. At some point, doesn't faith require action?" "Faith always requires action. The question is what action God is calling you toward." He squeezed her hand. "I'm not saying you're wrong. That man should have married you the moment he learned about these babies, should have shouted your name from rooftops. But make sure your heart is in the right place tonight. This can't be about revenge or proving a point. It has to be about love, for yourself, for your children, even for him. What if love means walking away? Then walk away with grace, but give him the chance to step up first." Pastor Robinson glanced at the twins, now building a tower with blocks. "They deserve a father who's brave enough to love them publicly, and you deserve a man who's proud to stand beside you." After leaving the church, Amara took the twins home for naps. While they slept, she prepared for the evening. The emerald dress hung on her closet door, a statement in silk. She'd chosen jewelry carefully, her grandmother's pearls, the only valuable thing passed down through her family. They represented legacy, heritage, pride in where she came from. She'd done her own research on the gala. The guest list included Manhattan's elite, CEOs, philanthropists, politicians, old money, and new. The society pages would be watching. Photographers would capture every moment. If Marcus rejected her publicly, the humiliation would be complete and permanent. But if he stood beside her, if he claimed them in front of everyone who mattered in his world, they might finally have a chance at a real future. Her phone buzzed with a message from Diane. "I'm at the venue. Press is already setting up. This is going to be huge. Are you sure about this?" Amara typed back. "I've never been more sure of anything." Another message came through, this one from an unknown number. "Dr. Sterling, this is Vivian Whitmore. We need to speak before tonight's event. It's urgent." Amara stared at the message. Marcus's mother had never contacted her directly. In 3 years, they'd never even been formally introduced. The few times they'd accidentally been in the same place, Vivian had looked through Amara as though she didn't exist. She didn't respond. Whatever Vivian wanted to say could wait. Tonight wasn't about appeasing Marcus's mother. It was about claiming the dignity and recognition she and her children deserved. At 4 p.m., Amara woke the twins and began getting them ready. She'd chosen their outfits with care, Elijah in a tiny suit that made him look impossibly grown up, Zara in a burgundy dress that complemented Amara's green gown. They looked like they belonged at a Manhattan gala, like they had every right to be there, because they did. "We look fancy," Elijah announced, admiring himself in the mirror. "We look beautiful," Amara corrected, helping Zara with her shoes. "And we're going to walk in with our heads held high, okay? No matter what happens, you remember that you are smart and loved and valuable." "Because Daddy loves us," Zara said confidently. "Yes, baby, because Daddy loves you, and Mama loves you, and nothing will ever change that." At 6 p.m., the car service arrived. One Amara had arranged herself, refusing to use Marcus's usual driver. They rode through Brooklyn into Manhattan in silence. The twins pressed against the windows, watching the city lights begin to glow. Amara's phone showed dozens of missed calls from Marcus. She hadn't answered any of them. He needed to make his choice without her guidance, without her reassurance. This had to be his decision, freely made. They arrived at the Metropolitan Museum at 6:45 p.m. The gala entrance was transformed, red carpet stretching up the famous steps, photographers positioned behind velvet ropes, guests arriving in limousines and town cars. Amara's driver pulled up to the curb. Through the window she could see the cameras, the crowd, the glittering spectacle of Manhattan society on display. "Mama, there's a lot of people," Elijah said, suddenly nervous. "I know, sweetheart, but we're going to walk right through them. Can you be brave for me?" He nodded solemnly. The driver opened the door. Amara stepped out first, the emerald dress catching the lights. Then she lifted Zara out, settling her daughter on her hip. Elijah climbed out next, reaching for Amara's hand. They stood together at the base of the steps. Above them, the museum glowed. Around them, cameras began to turn their direction. This was it, the moment everything changed. Amara took a deep breath, squeezed Elijah's hand, and started walking toward the entrance. Every step felt like a statement. I exist. My children exist. We matter. Cameras flashed. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Who is she? Whose children are those? Did you see that dress? Amara kept her head high, her expression serene. Zara buried her face in her mother's neck, overwhelmed by the attention. Elijah tried to match his mother's confidence, his small chin lifted in unconscious imitation of her dignity. They reached the top of the steps. The entrance to the gala lay just beyond the doors, where Manhattan's elite were gathered in their finest, champagne glasses in hand, convinced of their own importance. Amara paused, looking back at the cameras one last time. Then she turned and walked through the doors. Inside, the great hall had been transformed into something from a fairy tale. Thousands of white flowers cascaded from columns. Crystal chandeliers threw rainbow light across marble floors. Music floated through the air, elegant and refined, and every single person in the room stopped talking to stare at her. Amara felt the weight of their gazes, the shock and curiosity and judgment. She kept moving forward, scanning the crowd for Marcus. There, across the room, standing with a group of board members, looking devastatingly handsome in his tuxedo. Their eyes met across the distance. Marcus's face went pale, then red. Then something else entirely, an expression Amara couldn't read. The men he'd been talking to followed his gaze, their own faces registering surprise. Amara didn't move toward him. She simply stood there, holding their children, waiting. This was his choice, his moment to decide what kind of man he would be. The room had gone completely silent, everyone watching, everyone waiting to see what would happen next. Marcus's business partner Diane Chen appeared at his elbow, whispered something urgent. He nodded without taking his eyes off Amara. Then he moved, not away, toward. Marcus walked through the crowd with determined steps. People parted for him, whispers following in his wake. His expression was fierce, almost angry, but not at her. At himself, maybe, at the situation he'd created. He stopped in front of Amara close enough that she could see his hands trembling. "You came," he said softly. "I told you I would." Marcus looked at Elijah, then at Zara still hiding in Amara's arms. His eyes were wet. "You brought them." "They're your children, Marcus. Of course I brought them." He reached out, hesitated, then cupped Zara's small face with his hand. "Hey, Princess, it's okay. It's just Daddy." Zara peeked at him, then smiled, that brilliant smile that was pure joy. "Daddy, we're at your party." "Yes, you are. You're at my party." Marcus's voice broke. He looked at Elijah. "And you, champ, you look so handsome." "Mama said we had to be brave." "Your mama is the bravest person I know." Marcus finally looked at Amara, really looked at her. "And the strongest, and the most beautiful. And I've been a complete fool." The crowd pressed closer, listening to every word. Marcus took a breath, then spoke louder, loud enough for everyone to hear. "This is Dr. Amara Sterling, the most brilliant environmental engineer of her generation, the woman I love." He took Elijah's hand. "This is my son, Elijah. He's smart and curious and has my terrible stubbornness." He touched Zara's curls. "And this is my daughter Zara. She's creative and observant and makes everything beautiful just by being in it." Cameras flashed. Gasps echoed through the hall. Marcus pulled Amara close with his free arm, bringing all four of them together. "They're my family, the most important people in my world, and I should have introduced them to all of you years ago. I should have been proud, not afraid. I should have been the man they deserved." Amara's throat was tight with tears she refused to let fall. "Marcus, I love you," he said, his voice fierce. "I'm done hiding. I'm done being ashamed of my own cowardice. From this moment forward, everyone will know. You're mine, I'm yours, we're a family." Then he kissed her, right there in front of everyone, a kiss that tasted of apology and promise and desperate relief. When they broke apart, the room erupted. Some in applause, others in scandalized whispers, but Marcus didn't seem to care about any of it. He lifted Elijah into his arms, kept one arm around Amara and Zara, and stood there as a united front. "Let them talk," he murmured to Amara. "Let them judge. I don't care anymore. I only care about you three." Diane appeared with champagne for Amara and juice boxes for the twins. "Well," she said dryly, "that was one way to make an entrance." "The press is losing their minds." "Good," Marcus said firmly. "Let them write whatever they want. It's all true. I have a family and I'm not hiding them anymore." The rest of the gala passed in a blur. People approached cautiously, curiosity winning out over propriety. Some were genuinely warm, congratulating Marcus and admiring the twins. Others were coldly polite, their judgment clear in every clipped syllable. Marcus stayed glued to Amara's side, his hand finding hers whenever possible, his children within arm's reach. During dinner, they sat at the head table as a family. Elijah charmed everyone within hearing distance. Zara observed everything with those wise eyes. When Marcus gave his speech about environmental conservation and corporate responsibility, he went off script. "Tonight, I'm celebrating more than just this donation," he told the crowd. "I'm celebrating truth. For too long, I've let fear dictate my choices, fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of not living up to impossible standards, but the people who matter most taught me that fear is just another form of cowardice." He gestured to Amara. "This woman has shown me what real strength looks like, what real love requires. And these children have shown me what I'm really working toward, a world better than the one I grew up in. A world where love matters more than lineage, where character matters more than color, where families like ours can exist without shame." The applause was thunderous, though Amara noticed several tables where hands remained conspicuously still. At 9 p.m., Vivian Whitmore made her entrance. Amara saw her first, an elegant woman in silver, her posture perfect, her expression icy. She moved through the crowd like royalty, accepting greetings, dispensing nods, completely aware that every eye was on her. Marcus tensed beside Amara. "My mother." I gathered. Vivian approached their table with measured steps. Up close, she was formidable, beautiful in that cold, classical way, her eyes sharp and assessing. Marcus. Her voice was clipped, British accent pronounced. I see you've made quite the spectacle this evening. Mother. Marcus stood, his body angled protectively between Vivian and his family. I'd like you to meet. I know who she is. Vivian's gaze swept over Amara with surgical precision, cataloging every detail. The woman who's been living in the Brooklyn property for 3 years, the one you've been hiding like some shameful secret. Amara stood as well, meeting Vivian's gaze steadily. I'm Amara Sterling. It's a pleasure to finally meet you, Mrs. Whitmore. Is it? Vivian's laugh was brittle. How polite, how well-mannered. Did you rehearse that introduction, or does it come naturally? Mother, that's enough. Marcus's voice carried warning. Is it? Because I think we're just getting started. Vivian looked at the twins who'd gone quiet, sensing the tension. So these are my supposed grandchildren. How convenient that they appeared just as your company went public. How perfectly timed. Rage flooded through Amara. She took a step forward, her voice low and controlled. How dare you? How dare you question these children's paternity or my intentions? I have never asked Marcus for anything. I've supported myself, raised our children with my own resources, and built my career independently. If you want to judge someone's character, start with your son, who was too afraid of you to claim his own family. The words hung in the air like a challenge. Vivian's eyes widened slightly, surprised maybe that Amara had pushed back. Around them, conversations had stopped again. Everyone watching the confrontation unfold. Marcus touched Amara's arm gently. Let me handle this. But before he could speak, Elijah's small voice cut through the tension. Grandma, why are you mean to Mama? The innocent question, asked with such confusion, seemed to pierce something in the frozen tableau. Vivian looked at Elijah, really looked at him, and Amara saw the moment the older woman registered the resemblance. Elijah had Marcus's eyes, his bone structure, his expressions. Vivian started, then stopped. For the first time, she looked uncertain. These are your grandchildren, Marcus said firmly. Elijah and Zara, they're 3 years old. They're brilliant and funny and everything good in my life. And Amara is the woman I love, the woman I should have married years ago, the woman who deserves far better than what I've given her. He moved to stand fully beside Amara, a united front. So you have a choice, Mother. You can accept us as a family, or you can leave. But I won't tolerate you speaking to Amara with anything less than the respect she's earned. The silence was deafening. Vivian's face went through a series of expressions, anger, shock, something that might have been grief. Then she drew herself up, every inch the society matriarch. This conversation is not appropriate for such a public venue. We will discuss this privately, tomorrow, at the estate. She looked at Amara one more time, her expression unreadable. I suppose you'll need to bring them. Then she turned and walked away, the crowd parting for her exit. Amara released a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. Well, that went well. I'm so sorry. Marcus pulled her close. I should have prepared you. Should have confronted her years ago. You stood up for us. That's what matters. Amara looked at the twins, both clearly shaken by the encounter. But I think we should take them home. This has been enough excitement for one night. I'll come with you. Marcus, you're the guest of honor. You can't just leave your own gala. Watch me, he signaled to Diane, who nodded understanding. These 3 are more important than any party, than any company, than anything. They gathered their things and slipped out a side entrance, avoiding the press. In the car ride back to Brooklyn, Elijah and Zara fell asleep, almost immediately, exhausted from the overwhelming evening. Marcus held Amara's hand, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. You were magnificent tonight, braver than I've ever been. I was terrified. You didn't show it. You walked in there like you owned the place, like you knew exactly how valuable you are. He brought her hand to his lips. I'm sorry it took me so long to see what everyone else saw tonight, that you and our children are the best things that ever happened to me. So what happens now? Now? Marcus looked at the sleeping twins, then back at Amara. Now I do what I should have done years ago. I move into that brownstone with you. I wake up next to you every morning. I'm there for breakfast and bedtime stories and everything in between. I stop living in fear of what people think and start living the life I actually want. Your mother will adjust or won't, but she doesn't get to dictate how I live anymore. Nobody does except us. His expression grew serious. Diane told me about Stanford, about the job offer. Amara had forgotten about that in the chaos of the evening. Yes, I have until Monday to decide. You should take it, she blinked. Oh, what? You should take it. It's an incredible opportunity. World-class research facilities, your own lab, everything you've worked toward. Marcus squeezed her hand. I can run my company from anywhere. Hell, Silicon Valley makes more sense for Whitmore Green Technologies anyway. We'll move as a family. Buy a house with a proper yard for the twins. Start fresh somewhere that doesn't have all this baggage. You'd do that? Leave everything here? Amara, you are everything. You and Elijah and Zara. The rest is just details. Chapter 2. They arrived at the brownstone just before midnight. Marcus carried Zara inside while Amara guided a sleepy Elijah. Together, they put the children to bed, moving around each other with the practiced ease of partners who'd done this dance before. But never quite like this. Never with the freedom of knowing the hiding was over. When both twins were tucked in, Marcus and Amara stood in the doorway of the nursery, watching them sleep. I've done this 1,000 times, Marcus said softly. Put them to bed, watch them dream, but always with the knowledge that I'd leave before morning, that tomorrow I'd go back to pretending this part of my life didn't exist. And now? Now I stay. He turned to face her, his expression raw with emotion. If you'll have me. If you can forgive me for being such a coward. Amara studied him in the dim light from the hallway. This man she'd loved for 4 years, the father of her children, the source of so much joy and so much pain. I don't need to forgive you, she said finally. I need to trust you. I need to know that tonight wasn't just a dramatic gesture, that you won't wake up tomorrow and regret exposing yourself, that you won't resent me for forcing your hand. You didn't force anything. You gave me the push I needed, the courage I should have found on my own. Marcus reached for her hands. I love you. I've loved you since that first dinner 4 years ago when you explained carbon sequestration like it was poetry. I've loved you through every moment of this mess I created, and I'll love you for the rest of my life if you'll let me. Marcus, marry me. The words hung between them, unexpected and perfect and terrifying. What? Marry me. Not because you gave me an ultimatum, not because I'm trying to make amends, but because I want to spend every day of my life choosing you, choosing us. He pulled her closer. I don't have a ring. I didn't plan this. But I'm asking anyway because I've waited long enough. We've waited long enough. Tears spilled down Amara's cheeks before she could stop them. You're serious? More serious than I've ever been about anything. Your mother will lose her mind. Let her. Marcus wiped her tears with his thumbs. What do you say, Dr. Sterling? Will you marry me? Amara thought about the past 3 years, the loneliness, the hiding, the nights wondering if she was foolish to keep hoping. But she also thought about the man standing before her now, the one who'd finally found his courage, the one who'd claimed them publicly, consequences be damned, the one offering not just pretty words, but real change. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I'll marry you. Marcus kissed her then, and it was different from the kiss at the gala. That one had been for show, a declaration to the watching world. This one was just for them, tender and deep and full of promise. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Marcus rested his forehead against hers. I'm not leaving tonight, or tomorrow, or ever. You understand that, right? I'm home now. This is home. I've been waiting 3 years to hear you say that. I know, and I'll spend the rest of my life making up for those 3 years. They moved to the living room, settling onto the couch where Amara had sat just 24 hours earlier, contemplating this exact moment. Marcus pulled her close, her head on his chest, his arm around her shoulders. Tell me about Stanford, he said. What would the position entail? So Amara told him about the research opportunities, the lab she'd design herself, the graduate students she'd mentor, the projects that could genuinely change how the world approached climate science. It's everything I've dreamed of professionally, she admitted, but I kept hesitating because it meant taking the twins away from you, disrupting their lives, starting over somewhere new. What if starting over is exactly what we need? Marcus kissed the top of her head. New city, new community, new life where we're just a family, not a scandal, where the twins can grow up without the weight of my family's baggage. What about your company? Diane can handle East Coast operations. I'll split time, hire people I trust. The beauty of the work we do is that it's not location dependent. Half my team works remotely anyway. He paused. Unless you want to stay here. If Brooklyn's home to you, we'll make it work. I'll figure it out. Amara sat up to look at him. You'd really do that? Restructure your entire life around my career? In a heartbeat. You've been structuring your life around mine for 3 years. Time for me to return the favor. That's not how marriage works. We should both. Amara. He cupped her face gently. You're one of the leading minds in environmental science. You have the potential to literally change the world. My company is successful, yes, but it's also established. It can run without me hovering over every decision. This is your moment. Let me support it. The words settled something deep in Amara's chest. For so long, she'd made herself smaller, quieter, less demanding. She'd hidden her ambition along with her relationship, afraid that asking for too much would push Marcus away entirely. I want Stanford, she said. I want the lab and the research and the opportunity to make a real difference. Then you'll have it. We'll have it, as a family. They talked late into the night, planning a future that finally felt real. They'd tell the twins in the morning, would look for houses in Palo Alto, would start the process of relocating Marcus's primary residence and work, would set a wedding date. Soon, they both agreed. No elaborate ceremony, just the people who mattered. Around 2 a.m., exhaustion finally caught up with them. Marcus stood, pulling Amara to her feet. Come to bed, he said softly. They walked hand in hand to Amara's bedroom. Their bedroom now. Marcus shed his tuxedo jacket, loosened his bow tie. Amara unzipped her emerald dress, letting it pool at her feet. There was a vulnerability in undressing together, in being fully seen without the protective armor of clothing or lies. Marcus pulled Amara close, skin against skin, and simply held her. I've missed this, he murmured. Just holding you. Being held. Not having to check the time, worried about being seen leaving in the morning. No more checking the time. No more hiding. They climbed into bed, fitting together like pieces that had always belonged this way. Marcus's hands moved over Amara's body with reverent slowness, relearning curves he'd memorized but never fully claimed. I love you, he whispered against her neck. God, Amara, I love you so much. She turned in his arms, meeting his mouth with hers. The kiss deepened, ignited, became something urgent and necessary. They made love slowly, thoroughly, without the frantic energy of previous encounters always shadowed by impending separation. This was different. This was permanent. This was the first night of the rest of their lives. Afterward, tangled together in the sheets, Marcus traced patterns on Amara's bare shoulder. I have a confession. Oh? I've imagined this, falling asleep next to you, waking up to find you still here, making love without having to leave. I've fantasized about it 1,000 times. And? Does reality measure up to fantasy? Reality is better. Because in the fantasy, I always felt guilty, like I was stealing something I hadn't earned. But this, he pulled her impossibly closer. This feels right, like coming home after being lost for years. Amara pillowed her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat slow to resting rhythm. What do you think your mother will say tomorrow? Nothing good, probably, but that's her problem, not ours. She's still your mother, and she'll need to accept that things have changed, that I've changed. I'm not that frightened boy anymore, desperate for approval. Marcus kissed Amara's forehead. I'm a man with a family I'm proud of. If she can't accept that, we'll keep our distance, but I won't sacrifice you or the children for her comfort. That's a hard line to draw. I've spent too many years drawing the wrong lines. Time to draw better ones. They drifted toward sleep, wrapped in each other. Just before Amara fell into dreams, she whispered, I love you too, by the way, in case that wasn't clear. Marcus's arms tightened around her. It's clear, but I'll never get tired of hearing it. Morning came too soon. Amara woke to sunlight streaming through windows and the sound of small feet pounding down the hallway. The bedroom door burst open. "Mama, Daddy's shoes are by the door. Did he?" Elijah stopped, eyes going wide as he saw Marcus in bed beside Amara. "Daddy, you stayed!" Zara appeared behind her brother, equally shocked and delighted. "Daddy's here!" Both children launched themselves onto the bed, a tangle of pajamas and excitement. Marcus caught them, laughing, pulling them into a group embrace that included Amara. "I stayed," he confirmed, grinning at their joy. "And I'm going to keep staying. How do you feel about that?" "You're going to live here?" Elijah demanded. Really, if that's okay with you two." "Yes!" Both twins shouted in unison, then dissolved into giggles. They made breakfast together, Marcus discovering where Amara kept the pancake mix, the twins helping by making an enormous mess, everyone laughing at the chaos. It felt natural, easy, like they'd been doing this forever instead of just starting. Over pancakes, Marcus and Amara explained about California, about the new house they'd find, about adventures in a new city. "Will there be an ocean?" Zara asked, eyes lighting up. "Yes, sweetheart, the Pacific Ocean, and beaches, and mountains too." "And dinosaur museums?" Elijah wanted to know. "Absolutely. Lots of museums." The twins accepted the news with the flexibility of 3-year-olds, excited about the adventure rather than worried about leaving the familiar. After breakfast, Marcus made calls while Amara cleaned up. Diane first, explaining his decision to relocate primarily to California. Then his lawyer, to begin the process of officially recognizing the twins, establishing paternity, sorting through all the legal details he should have handled years ago. At noon, they received a text from Vivian, 2 p.m., the estate. "Don't be late," Marcus sighed. "Well, time to face the dragon." "We don't have to go today," Amara said. "We could wait, give her time to cool down." "No, better to handle this now on our terms. Show her we're united." They dressed carefully. Amara in a sophisticated black dress that said she wasn't apologizing for existing, Marcus in slacks and a crisp shirt, the twins in play clothes because, as Marcus said firmly, they're children, not dolls to be dressed for Vivian's approval. The drive to Connecticut felt endless. Amara had never been to the Whitmore estate. She'd only seen pictures, the sprawling grounds, the historic mansion, the legacy of wealth and privilege Marcus had been born into. As they pulled through the gates, she understood for the first time what he'd been protecting by hiding her. This world had rules she didn't know, standards she'd never been trained to meet, old money, old prejudices, old expectations about who belonged and who didn't. Marcus must have sensed her tension. He reached over, squeezing her hand. "You belong here more than any of them. Remember that." The house was intimidating, all white columns and perfectly manicured gardens. A butler answered the door, directed them to the library without a word. Vivian waited there, seated in a high-backed chair like a queen on a throne. She didn't stand when they entered. "You brought the children." Her tone suggested this was a mistake. "They're part of this family," Marcus said evenly. "They belong in this conversation." "Do they? How progressive." Vivian's eyes swept over them all. "Please sit, we have much to discuss." Amara chose the sofa, settling Zara on her lap. Elijah pressed close to Marcus's side, the family unit clear. "I'll be direct," Vivian began. "Last night was a disaster. You've embarrassed this family, Marcus, made us the subject of gossip and speculation. Do you understand what you've done to our reputation?" "I've told the truth, that I have a family I love." "Love." Vivian said it like it was distasteful. "Love doesn't excuse poor judgment. You're 35 years old, the CEO of a major corporation. Your choices have consequences beyond your personal feelings." Amara felt anger building. Before Marcus could respond, she spoke. "With respect, Mrs. Whitmore, your son's choices are his own. He's not a child who needs your permission to live his life." "I wasn't addressing you, but I'm addressing you." Amara's voice stayed calm but firm. "You can be angry at Marcus for keeping us hidden. You can be disappointed that he didn't follow whatever path you planned for him. But you don't get to pretend we don't exist. You don't get to treat your grandchildren like they're shameful mistakes." "Grandchildren?" Vivian's laugh was sharp. "How do I know they're truly Marcus's? A paternity test would..." Mother, stop! Marcus's voice cut like steel. Those children are mine. Anyone with eyes can see it, and if you dare suggest otherwise again, we're leaving and you'll never see any of us. The room went silent. Even the twins sensed the gravity of the moment. Vivian's composure cracked slightly. You would choose her over your own family? She is my family. They are my family. And I should have chosen them years ago. Marcus stood, bringing Elijah with him. I came here out of respect to tell you in person that we're moving to California, that I'm marrying Amara, that you're welcome in our lives if you can treat us all with dignity. But if you can't, we'll build our life without you. Marcus, I'm done caring what society thinks. Done trying to meet standards that are rooted in prejudice and fear. Dad died with hate in his heart, and I won't follow that path. I won't teach my children to value acceptance from people who can't see past skin color. His voice softened. I love you, Mother, but I love them more. And if I have to choose, there's no contest. Vivian looked at him for a long moment, then at Amara, then at the twins, Elijah watching her with Marcus's eyes, Zara sucking her thumb in Amara's lap. Something in her expression shifted. Not acceptance, exactly, but perhaps recognition. That Marcus meant what he said, that she was about to lose her only son. They look like you, she said finally, her voice quiet. The boy especially. He has your father's chin. Yes. And her? Vivian gestured to Amara. What are her qualifications? Her background? She's a doctor of environmental engineering, published researcher, about to accept a full professorship at Stanford. She's brilliant, accomplished, and has more integrity in her little finger than most of the people we know. Marcus moved back to the sofa, sitting beside Amara in a clear gesture of allegiance. But none of that should matter. I love her. That's the only qualification required. Vivian was quiet, processing. When she spoke again, her voice had lost its cutting edge. Your father filled your head with poison. I see that now. I said nothing because that's what I was taught to do. Stay quiet. Maintain appearances. Keep the peace. She looked at Amara directly for the first time. I apologize for last night, for the things I said. They were cruel and unfounded. It wasn't warm, but it was something. Thank you, Amara said carefully. I don't know how to be a grandmother to children I've never been prepared for. Vivian's honesty was uncomfortable. I don't know how to navigate this. My friends will have opinions. Society will judge. Let them, Marcus said. We're done caring about that. Easy for you to say. You're young. You have your whole life ahead of you. I'm 62 years old. This is the world I've lived in for decades. You're asking me to abandon everything I know. I'm asking you to love your grandchildren. The rest will follow. Vivian looked at Elijah and Zara again. This time, her expression was less hostile, more uncertain, like she wanted to try but didn't know how. May I? She stopped, started again. Could I hold one of them? The request, hesitant and almost shy, surprised everyone. Amara looked at Marcus, who nodded. She turned to Zara. Would you like to meet your grandma properly? Zara studied Vivian with her usual seriousness. Then, with the fearless trust of childhood, she climbed down and walked over to the older woman. Vivian's hands trembled as she lifted Zara onto her lap. The little girl immediately started examining Vivian's pearl necklace with fascination. Pretty, Zara pronounced. Thank you, Vivian said stiffly, then softer. You're very pretty too. Elijah, not wanting to be left out, approached as well. I'm Elijah. I'm 3. I like dinosaurs. Dinosaurs? Vivian looked at a loss. He knows all their names, Marcus said, and there was pride in his voice. Tell Grandma about the Triceratops, champ. Elijah launched into an enthusiastic explanation of his favorite dinosaur. Vivian listened, her expression slowly transforming from rigid control to something almost tender. Amara watched the scene, hardly daring to breathe. This wasn't acceptance, not yet, but it was a beginning. After 20 minutes of the twins chattering, Vivian looked up at Marcus and Amara. I'll try. I can't promise I'll be good at this. I can't promise I'll get it right, but I'll try. That's all we ask, Marcus said. California is far. We'll visit. You'll visit. We'll figure it out. Vivian nodded slowly. And the wedding? When? Soon. Small ceremony. Just family and close friends. I'd like to attend, if I'm invited. Marcus glanced at Amara, who nodded. You're invited, Mother. They stayed another hour, the atmosphere gradually thawing. Vivian was stiff and formal, clearly uncomfortable, but making an effort. She asked about Amara's research, inquired about the Stanford position, showed the twins her gardens. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. As they drove back to Brooklyn, Amara felt exhausted. That was harder than last night, but necessary. Marcus reached for her hand. She'll come around, or she won't, but at least we gave her the chance. You think she will really change? I think she wants to. Whether she can overcome a lifetime of programming is another question. He brought her hand to his lips. But it's not our job to fix her. We just have to protect our family and live our lives. She can join us in that or not. The twins fell asleep in the back seat. Back at the brownstone, Marcus carried them both inside, one in each arm. They put them down for naps, then collapsed on the sofa. So, Amara said, we're really doing this, moving to California, getting married, merging our lives completely. Having second thoughts? No, just trying to believe it's real, that this is actually happening. Marcus pulled her close, kissing her temple. It's real. I'm real. This is our life now. They spent the rest of the afternoon making plans. Marcus called realtors in Palo Alto. Amara emailed Stanford to accept the position. They discussed timelines, moving in 6 weeks, wedding in 4, giving themselves time to settle before Amara started her new job. When the twins woke, they ordered pizza and ate on the floor, the 4 of them crowded around the coffee table. After dinner, Marcus gave the twins their bath, making them laugh with silly voices and bubble beards. Tucking them into bed, Elijah said, Daddy, are you staying again tonight? Every night from now on, champ. Forever? Forever. Zara, already half asleep, murmured, Good. We're a family. Yes, Princess. We're a family. Later, alone in their bedroom again, Marcus and Amara made love with the confidence of partners who knew this was permanent. No urgency, no fear of the morning, just the slow exploration of bodies that belong to each other, the whispered promises of people building a future. I can't believe this time yesterday I was terrified you'd choose your comfort over us, Amara said afterward, curled against Marcus's chest. I was terrified, too, that I'd waited too long, that you'd leave before I found my courage. He kissed her hair. But you gave me one last chance, and I'll spend the rest of my life making sure I'm worthy of it. You already are. I'm getting there, but I have a lot of making up to do. They fell asleep tangled together, secure in the knowledge that tomorrow would bring the same. And the day after. And the day after that. For the first time in 3 years, neither of them was hiding. Chapter 3. The next 3 weeks were a whirlwind. Marcus officially moved into the brownstone, his belongings slowly migrating from the penthouse. Amara delighted in discovering his habits. He liked his coffee strong, hated mornings, sang off-key in the shower. He learned hers. She read research papers at breakfast, did yoga at midnight when she couldn't sleep, arranged her books by color rather than author. They were building a life together, finally, properly. The media coverage was intense. Billionaire's secret family revealed dominated headlines for days. Most coverage was surprisingly positive. Think pieces about modern families, interracial couples, the changing face of wealth. Some outlets were less kind, implying Amara was a gold digger, questioning the timeline, suggesting scandal. Marcus ignored it all. Let them write whatever they want. We know the truth. But Amara noticed him tense every time a particularly nasty article appeared. She'd catch him on his phone, jaw clenched, reading comments that were better left unread. Stop torturing yourself, she'd tell him, taking the phone away. None of that matters. It matters when they call you names, when they reduce everything we are to some sordid cliché. Their opinions don't change our reality. We're happy, the twins are happy. That's what matters. Still, the scrutiny wore on them both. Photographers camped outside the brownstone. Strangers approached them in restaurants. A tabloid offered $1 million for exclusive details about their relationship. This is why I tried to protect you, Marcus said one evening, after they'd been forced to leave a park because of aggressive paparazzi. This circus, this invasion of privacy. You weren't protecting me. You were hiding me. There's a difference. Amara squeezed his hand. This is temporary. They'll find some other scandal to chase. And in the meantime, we're together. Publicly, proudly together. That's worth some inconvenience. The board meeting 3 weeks after the gala was tense. Conservative board members, led by Walter Hutchins, a man who'd been friends with Marcus's father, demanded explanations. You've turned this company into a tabloid headline, Walter said, his face red with indignation. Shareholders are concerned. Our reputation is being damaged by your personal choices. Marcus sat at the head of the conference table, Diane beside him, and met Walter's anger with calm resolve. Our stock price is up 12% since the gala. We've received inquiries from 3 major investors who specifically mentioned appreciating our commitment to transparency and modern values. And our social media engagement has tripled. If that's damage, I'll take more of it. That's short-term curiosity. Long-term, this kind of scandal, it's not a scandal. It's a family, my family. And if you can't separate your personal prejudices from good business sense, perhaps you're not the right fit for this board anymore. The room went silent. No one challenged Walter Hutchins. He'd been a titan of industry for 40 years. Diane stepped in smoothly. Marcus is right about the numbers. I've prepared a full analysis. She distributed packets. Media sentiment is 82% positive or neutral. Brand recognition is up. We've been approached by diversity and inclusion organizations interested in partnerships. And, this is important, our employee satisfaction scores have increased. People like working for a CEO who's authentic. Authentic? Walter scoffed. That's millennial nonsense. Business is business. Personal life should remain personal. With respect, Walter, that's outdated thinking. Modern consumers, especially younger generations, care about values. They want to support companies led by people they respect. And Marcus standing by his family, refusing to hide them for propriety's sake. That resonates. Diane's smile was sharp. So yes, authentic matters. The vote, when it came, was clear. The board supported Marcus. Walter and 2 others abstained, but they didn't push further. After the meeting, Marcus pulled Diane into a hug. Thank you for having my back, for always having my back. Someone has to keep you honest, but she smiled. Besides, Amara deserves this. You both do. And those kids are going to change the world someday. I'm not letting some old bigot stand in the way of that. Planning the move to California consumed their evenings. They video toured houses, debated neighborhoods, discussed schools for when the twins were older. Marcus was methodical, making spreadsheets of pros and cons. Amara was more intuitive, drawn to homes with character and light. They settled on a craftsman-style house in Palo Alto's Professorville neighborhood, walking distance to Stanford with a yard large enough for the twins to play and a detached office where Marcus could work. It needed renovations, but they both loved its warmth. We can make it ours, Amara said, scrolling through photos. Paint the walls, design the spaces together, build something from scratch. Like we're doing with our life, Marcus agreed, kissing her forehead. The wedding planning was simpler. They'd chosen a date, exactly 1 month from the gala. Intimate ceremony at Pastor Robinson's church, reception at the brownstone. Immediate family only, plus Diane and a few close friends. Amara's parents flew in from Atlanta a week before the wedding. Her mother, Grace, was a tiny woman with a huge presence, scrutinizing Marcus from the moment they met. So you're the man who's been hiding my daughter, she said, not bothering with pleasantries. Mama, Amara warned. No, she's right. Marcus extended his hand. I'm the coward who was too afraid to introduce the world to the most extraordinary woman I've ever known. And I'm spending the rest of my life making up for that. Grace studied him for a long moment, then took his hand. Good answer. Still don't like you yet, but it's a start. Amara's father, David, was warmer. Any man who makes my daughter happy has my blessing, but hurt her again, and we'll have problems. Understood, sir. The twins immediately adopted their grandparents, dragging them around the brownstone, showing off toys and paintings and demanding stories. Grace and David were naturals, laughing at the chaos, soaking up every moment with their grandchildren. They're beautiful, Grace told Amara privately. Smart, too. Takes after their mama. And stubborn like their daddy. Grace's expression grew serious. You're sure about this? About marrying him? About leaving everything here? I've never been more sure of anything. Good. Because he better treat you right. That man put you through 3 years of nonsense. I'm not inclined to forgive that easily. He's changed, Mama. Really changed. We'll see. Actions matter more than words, and I'll be watching. Vivian arrived 2 days before the wedding, staying at a hotel rather than imposing, as she put it. She was stiff with Amara's parents, clearly uncomfortable with the casual warmth of their family dynamic. But she made efforts, bringing gifts for the twins, complimenting Grace's cooking when they had dinner together. It was awkward, but it was something. The twins' birthday fell 2 days after the wedding. Marcus insisted on throwing them a proper party, not the elaborate society event he might once have planned, but a real children's party with bounce houses and face painting and chaos. They rented space in a park, invited children from the twins' preschool, decorated with dinosaurs and unicorns. Amara's family came. Diane brought her kids. Even Vivian attended, though she looked overwhelmed by the noise and activity. Marcus gave a short speech, his voice thick with emotion. 3 years ago, these two incredible humans came into my life and changed everything. I wasn't always the father they deserved. I wasn't always the man I should have been. But they loved me anyway, because children love unconditionally. He pulled Amara close, and their mother showed me what real strength looks like, what courage really means. Today we celebrate Elijah and Zara, but we're also celebrating family, and second chances, and the future we're building together. The party was chaotic and perfect. Elijah ran himself ragged on the bounce house. Zara got her face painted as a butterfly. Both twins demolished their cake with gusto. Late in the afternoon, as the party wound down, Marcus pulled Amara away from the crowd. They stood under a tree, watching their children play. This, Marcus said softly, this is what life should be. Not fancy galas or society approval. Just this. Our family. Our friends, real joy. No regrets about leaving that world behind? The only regret I have is that I didn't do it sooner. He turned her to face him. I love you, Amara Sterling. Soon to be Amara Whitmore, or Sterling Whitmore, whatever you want. I'm keeping Sterling professionally, for my research. Good, you've earned that name, made it mean something in your field. He kissed her gently. But I'd be honored if you'd add Whitmore to it, if you'd officially be part of my family. I've been part of your family for 3 years. I know, but now everyone else knows too. Vivian approached tentatively. The cake was enthusiastically received, she said, and there might have been a hint of a smile. That's one way to put it, Marcus laughed. The children seem very happy. Vivian watched Elijah and Zara playing with other kids. They're quite social. They're used to being around people. Amara took them everywhere, parks, museums, library programs. They're not afraid of the world. That's good, important. Vivian was quiet for a moment. I'd like to visit, in California, once you're settled, if that would be acceptable. The olive branch, tentative but genuine, made Amara smile. We'd like that. The twins should know their grandmother. I don't know how to be a proper grandmother. My own mother was cold, distant. I don't have a good model. You don't need a model, Amara said gently. You just need to love them. The rest will follow. Vivian nodded slowly. I'll try. That's all I can promise. That's all we ask. The wedding day arrived with perfect weather, sunny but not hot, a gentle breeze carrying the scent of flowers. Pastor Robinson's church was small and intimate, decorated simply with white roses. Amara's hands shook as she dressed. Her mother helped her into the gown, not the elaborate confection society might expect, but elegant silk that made her feel beautiful without trying to be something she wasn't. You look like a queen, Grace said, tears in her eyes. My beautiful daughter, so strong, so smart, marrying a man who finally understands how lucky he is. Mama, you're going to make me cry. Good. Brides should cry on their wedding day. Shows it matters. Diane knocked, poking her head in. Ready? Marcus is about to pace a hole in the floor up there. Is he nervous? Terrified. Keeps asking if you're sure about this. I told him if you weren't, you'd have fled days ago. Diane grinned. You look stunning, by the way. The ceremony was simple. David walked Amara down the short aisle. Marcus waited at the altar, and when he saw her, his eyes went wet. Elijah and Zara walked ahead as ring-bearer and flower girl, taking their roles with utmost seriousness. They'd practiced all week, determined to be perfect. Pastor Robinson officiated with warmth and wisdom. Marriage is a covenant, he told them, a promise to choose each other every day through every challenge. What you're doing today isn't about society approval or fixing past mistakes. It's about committing to build a future together with open hearts and honest intentions. Marcus's vows made Amara cry. I spent 3 years being a coward, 3 years hiding the best parts of my life, 3 years failing to be the man you deserved. I can't undo that time. But I can promise you this, for the rest of our lives, I will choose you. Every single day, I will choose you. I will choose our family. I will choose courage over comfort. I will choose love over fear. You made me better, Amara. You made me want to be better, and I will spend every day trying to be worthy of the faith you've shown in me. Amara's own vows were shorter, but no less powerful. I've loved you since our first dinner, when you saw past my achievements to who I really was. And I've chosen to keep loving you through every difficult moment because I believed in the man you could be. Today, I'm choosing you again. Not because I have to, not because of our children, but because you've finally become the partner I knew you could be. Because you've shown me that people can change, that courage can be found, that love can win. I choose you, Marcus, today and every day. Pastor Robinson pronounced them married. Marcus kissed Amara with such tenderness that the small crowd erupted in applause. The reception at the brownstone was everything a wedding should be, joyful, intimate, full of laughter. Grace cooked her famous fried chicken. David made his signature sweet tea. Diane gave a toast that was equal parts roast and tribute. I've known Marcus for 8 years, she said, raising her glass, and I've watched him build a company, make deals worth millions, and convince investors to fund impossible dreams. But I've never seen him as nervous as he was about introducing Amara and the kids at that gala, because this mattered more than any business deal ever could. This was his heart on display, and I'm proud of him for finally finding the courage to protect it properly. To Amara and Marcus, may your marriage be as strong as her patience and as enduring as his coffee addiction. Vivian's toast was briefer but meaningful. I didn't understand at first. I was trapped by old ideas, old prejudices. But watching you with my grandchildren, seeing the life you've built, I'm beginning to understand. What you have is real and valuable, and I'm honored to be included in it. As evening fell, they cleared the living room furniture and danced. Marcus and Amara's first dance was to Etta James, at last, because as Marcus said, that's exactly what this was. At last, everything falling into place. Later, after most guests had left and the twins were sleeping, Marcus and Amara stood on the brownstone's small back patio, wrapped in each other's arms. Mrs. Whitmore, Marcus murmured, has a nice ring to it. Dr. Sterling Whitmore, technically. Even better. He kissed her neck. How does it feel? Being married. The same, but also completely different. Like we've always been this, but now it's official. I like official. I like that the world knows you're mine. I was never not yours. I know, but I'm making up for lost time, claiming you everywhere, in every way. They went inside, up the stairs to their bedroom. The wedding night was tender and passionate, a celebration of promises made and kept. They made love slowly, reverently, marking this moment as the true beginning of their shared life. After, lying tangled in sheets, Amara said softly, I'm pregnant. Marcus went still. What? I'm pregnant, about 6 weeks. I wanted to wait until after the wedding to tell you. Didn't want you to think that's why I said yes. Pregnant. He sat up, staring at her. We're having another baby? We're having another baby. Joy broke across his face like sunrise. Oh my God, Amara, another baby. How? I mean, obviously I know how, but he laughed, the sound giddy. We're having another baby. Are you happy? Happy, I'm ecstatic, terrified, overwhelmed, but mostly ecstatic. He placed his hand on her still flat stomach. Hello in there, little one. This is your daddy. And I promise you something right now. I'm going to be present for every moment, every doctor appointment, every milestone, everything. No hiding, no shame, just love. Amara's eyes filled with tears. That's all I ever wanted to hear. Well, you're going to hear it a lot, because I mean it. This time, I'm doing everything right from the beginning. They fell asleep, holding each other, whispering about the future, about baby names and nursery colors and how to tell the twins they'd be big siblings. In the morning, they told Elijah and Zara over breakfast. Both children were initially confused, then excited. A baby? Elijah's eyes went wide. A real baby? A real baby, Marcus confirmed. Will it like dinosaurs? Elijah wanted to know. We'll teach them to love dinosaurs, Amara promised. Zara, ever practical, asked, where will the baby sleep? We'll figure that out when we get to California. Maybe we'll find a house with an extra room. Can I help decorate? You can absolutely help decorate. The rest of their time in New York passed in a blur of packing and goodbyes. They sold the brownstone to a young couple with a toddler. Amara liked the idea of another family making memories there. Marcus finalized his business arrangements, ensuring he could work remotely while maintaining some oversight of East Coast operations. They drove across the country, 5 days with 2 3-year-olds in a car, stopping at every interesting landmark, making it an adventure. Marcus had never done a road trip before. Amara delighted in showing him the America that existed between coasts. This is real life, she told him somewhere in Kansas, watching sunset paint the prairie gold. Not fancy penthouses or society galas. This, the land, the people, the simple moments. I like this real life, Marcus said, holding her hand. As long as you're in it. They arrived in California to their new house, already furnished with basics but needing their personal touch. The twins immediately claimed bedrooms. Amara stood in what would be her home office, envisioning the research she'd do, the papers she'd write, the students she'd mentor. Happy? Marcus asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. So happy, more than I thought possible. Good, because this is just the beginning. The rest of our lives starts now. No more hiding, no more shame, no more fear. Just us, building something beautiful. Amara turned in his arms, kissing him deeply. Outside, they could hear the twins exploring the backyard, their laughter carrying on the breeze. Inside, new life grew. Around them, possibility stretched infinite. They'd made it, through the darkness into light, through shame into pride, through fear into love, and every day forward they'd choose each other again.